the Gentlementor.
We
Yeah,
spent, at some point over the weekend, we had some conversation where we were remembering our past lives in ministry and how much that world kind of uses that paradigm against its own. And so they use the pressure of parent shame against the parent to try to get the parent to go along with whatever is the accepted,
right. That's
it's
amazing.
there's a lot of pressure when you're in ministry that if your kids are doing something, it's extra bad because you're one of the people, on staff or with a name or a title or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
it gets stinky quick. But sorry, didn't
Yeah.
mean to interrupt there. Go ahead.
No, that was huge because, and what you're talking about, Doug, is right, because, and I'll explain to you, everyone, we've got this, we call them PKs, they're preachers' kids or pastors' kids. And they have a stereotype of always having been the worst behaved children in the church as they grow up to be the teenagers, the most rebellious. But it was because in that scenarios, the pastors were, and both the mother and the father, who were the pastor, were ashamed of the way their child acted. They weren't allowed to have a regular childhood because everyone in the church believes they should be holier than every other child.
You're under the magnifying glass constantly. Nobody can live that way.
Is that the same? Is it the same thing?
So absolutely. So I grew up in a home of a rabbi who had, over 100 people come on Saturday to his house, to his synagogue all the time. And there was always activities, and I was outside playing basketball, or, I was definitely not sitting in the synagogue praying like I do today.
Yeah.
And I totally remember that kind of like, you're the son of the rabbi, like you don't talk in synagogue or don't whatever other direction that was given in whatever manner.
Yeah.
But
we know you're a kid, but try not to make any mistakes.
Yes, exactly. I did want to say something else in regards to parenting. When I was younger, everyone gave me the advice, and I still hear it today, like, oh, the best form of parenting is role modeling. And I see more and more how powerful that is. When I was young, at first I thought role modeling means, okay, so what is it that I want from my child? And then let me model that. And then they'll follow me, right? I'll play that role, and then they'll follow me, right? That's what role modeling means. And I mean, I didn't articulate that to myself, but that's how I definitely thought of the idea when I was younger. And then I started to realize, I'm still realizing that role modeling just means to be your most authentic self and share that. So if you see your kid in a struggle, if you're able to give them some kind of information on how you also had that struggle, which is crazy because like the previous generation would never share those struggles. Those were swept under the rug. Right? But just be authentic. Like, don't be embarrassed in front of your kid. Like, they think of you as the world, and when they see that you went through that struggle as well, and you're authentic about it, you're telling them about your experience and what helped you. What better guidance do you have for a kid who's kind of lost? Like, just doesn't know what to do next, doesn't know how to react. I just want to say two things that kind of triggered, stuck in my head. One was Doug mentioned that he's a kid from a small town, and I thought it was so nice how you introduced yourself like that, because I have this thing that we need to talk to our children like they're adults and not like they're kids. Like they're just humans, just like we are. We think that there's like a specific, like they're children. There's some kind of like, no, they're just a little younger than you. They're humans, and you have to talk to them with the respect that you would talk to an adult. And I thought that was a powerful idea. I forgot what the second one was.
Yeah, you said there's two things.
Yeah. I'll try to remember. I'm sure it'll come back.
Okay.
But I do think that, the second thing was that I heard this advice from a rabbi here in Emory, and I thought it was amazing because our kids are getting into their teenage years, and we're starting to have bigger conversations with them about the world,
Yeah.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And my wife, Rifki, asks this rabbi, like, when does he think is the right time to have these conversations? And that's a question before, like, when should I talk about? He said something so amazing. He said 2 points. He said, tell them all the information all the time. Don't hold back anything. It's coming from you. It's going to come in the right manner. If it's too much information, it'll go over their heads. There's like kind of like a radical idea, but it's the same idea as they have an empty cup. They're going to go somewhere for information. It should come from you because you were vested with that energy and that power, that unlimited energy to teach them, give them, guide them.
Right.
Second thing he said is, like, to describe and define the manner was use the word God a lot. God created man and female. God wants you to have this kind of a relationship. God wants you. And like at first I was like a little off-putted by like, why do I have to use the word God all the time? But when I thought about it, it just gave everything purpose and meaning. Like there's a reason why, sex feels good, right? He wants you to have a relationship with a special person. There's a reason why, you have these kinds of idea, like fantasies or whatever else it is, right? God put all this in the world for us to use the right manner. So I think that's also like very powerful, like idea. Just treat them like they're humans that are learning information. And
absolutely.
Totally
when you realize that what you're doing is not having a conversation, you are building a relationship that you're going to have a lot of conversations from. The most important thing is that relationship has truth and integrity, that it's just what did you say, raw, it's out in the open. There's lots of good buzzwords that aren't coming to me right now. Authentic, that's the one everybody, you want to be authentic. It builds trust. That person knows they can trust you. And appealing to God makes sense to me in this really, what's probably a stupid little way. As a kid, the most frustrating answer to hear in the world was, because I'm your mother or father, fill in the blank. Because I'm your dad and I said so. Yeah. It was arbitrary. There's no rationale behind it. Right. When I say that the creator of the universe has created this with you in mind for this purpose, the authority doesn't have to rest on me or my rationale or reasoning. It gets me out of the hot seat as a parent.
Right.
And it gives a kid an answer they can go, oh, okay, well, it's not just because my dad said so, it's God. Right. Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah.
One of the things which is interesting, and this is how I test myself, whether or not I'm having a real relationship with my child, or am I having a conversation with them, which connotes I'm teaching them something now, right? They are my students, and I'm going to form them. So the best way, like I found, definitely more recently, is did I learn something from them, and did I share that I just learned that from them? Because when you're in the mode of like you're going to have these conversations with your kids, and you're going to teach them, and you're going to set them right, and you're not learning jack from them. There's no way you're learning in that kind of a framework. You can't, and you're also not having a relationship with them. You're just like, you want them to relate to everything that you said, but you're not going to relate to them at all, right? Right. That's not fair. That's not reasonable. That's not authentic. Go ahead.
Well, and when that goes back to every relationship thrives on mutual benefit. How do you benefit from each other? Do you each receive mutual benefits? I mean, let's think about it, guys. The first I don't know how to phrase this right. You could probably set me.
You're hip deep now, man. You better work it out quick. You're on the spot. This is a podcast. You can't just make stuff up.
We are children. God is a father. Okay, so there we go. That's the relationship is set. The guidelines are already set, and that's the first quote unquote relationship there is. Right. Right. Okay. And now I don't know where I was going with this, so here I go again. I got so excited about, the mutual benefit. So what is the mutual benefit? So what you were saying, AVREMEL, did I learn something from my child when I had a conversation with him? Did I learn something about him or her? Or was it just me trying to be a teacher? Because then you open up, when you have that mutual benefit, you open up the real relationship, like both of you were talking about. It's about having a relationship, not a conversation, right?
David says in 2 times in Psalms how he one is he learned from his biggest enemy, right? That's famous statement. But the more powerful statement is what it means to really be a teacher, like because we are teachers. I'm not saying we're not teachers to our children, right. but in this form, which we call Malam Deiskalti, that King David learned the most from his students. That's what he says. So, you would think that his students, the statement that would profile the relationship between King David and any one of his students or anyone who ever learned anything from him would be how much they learned from King David, the old great and mighty King David.
Yeah.
Instead, he says in his own Psalms is that relationship was defined for him. How he defined it was that I learned the most from my students, I think that's very powerful. And
how true is that even in today's day and age, when we have to rely on our own children to help us with our phones and setting the clocks on our VCRs and not you, AVREMEL, because you're in the technology business, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, I just had this conversation. Who did I have this conversation with? And I realized it wasn't my daughter. It was your daughter, Mark. I had this conversation last night.
Oh, about social media?
About social media. I had to go before the great and mighty daughter and say, hey, I'm an old man who's an idiot with social media. Can you teach me something? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm involved in technology, and my kids are teaching me how to do things every day. So
that's what I told her. You grew up with it. It was with you all the time. You guys learned to speak the language from the time you hit the earth.
But just to segue into modern day parenting,
run.
I find that my children, their attention span is much shorter.
Yeah.
Right. And so I put these limits on my apps. So Instagram, I like to see what's going on. But I have to put a limit of I think it's at 30 minutes now a day max. Yeah. But that's a lot also. So we'll probably get it down. The thing is that I'm just amazed by you scroll. And there's little bits of information, right? Just little bits. And some of these things are getting millions and millions of hits. And if you go and see what's getting millions and millions of hits, it's usually something which is so superficial and so shallow. But that's what the world is liking.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And but it's very short memes or 10-second reels, TikTok. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
No one's investing their time into an idea beyond that. It's not an idea for them. It's something that makes them feel good in the moment.
But yet we see a longing for, what Doug and I are doing through this, we see a longing for people looking for deeper connection. I think we're finally, and I hate to use the term, but maybe we're evolving to the point where we realize social media is really just a quick kind of glimpse. It's a 30,000 foot view of what's happening. But I think we're starting to realize now we need real, deep, sensible connections with people.
That's amazing.
Who's built a platform for that?
May I?
Okay, go for it.
I'm going to suggest that what you both are saying are correct, that there is a divergence. And maybe it's always existed. I think there's a portion of society that is drawn towards social media like output, that they tend to be kind of myopic, self-focused people. They probably tend to be younger. I mean, it's all broad brushstrokes, but it's a different mindset than the type of people who will probably sit down and listen to a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast or something.
Yeah.
Those people are looking for something. They are looking for a relationship, and they're looking for more stable. The people who are in the social media are looking for distraction. They don't want to think. They want something that just hits and goes, and there's a thrill, and you get your dopamine, and you're just moving along. Everything's about pace. Keep it moving, keep it moving. I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to get tied up in anything.
Right.
I don't want to know anything. Just entertain me.
So Doug, you just
Yes, sir.
illustrated like you very beautifully contrast of humans, right? But wouldn't you say, like, as parents, right, or ministers, or anyone who wants to give in this world and make it that much better, reveal godliness just one step at a time? How do we bridge that gap? Because the ladder, I still remember the ladder of what you said, is just growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
It is. That's actually
Yeah.
interesting you should ask. That's exactly the kind of I don't know what you want to call it, the theoretical thing that we have been chewing on for the last couple years. Is we've been kind of standing back and looking at what's going on culturally and socially and social media and technology-wise and saying, what can we do? How do we enter this fray and make a difference? And just probably within the last 2 months have finally gotten some idea of a strategy of how to go about that, which we are implementing. And I explained to Mark, and man, forgive me, if you understand business or investing, you're about to hear an absolute rookie try to explain the way he understands it. I know nothing. I'm a complete idiot. But this is the way that it formulated in my mind. That when I invest, there are a lot of companies I don't necessarily agree with their philosophical, political, what have you. Fill in the blank. Doesn't matter. But what I'm looking at when I'm investing is not their philosophical stance. It's their bottom line. If I want to make money, I need to look at who can make money and then jump on that wagon. So I can get the money, and then I can take that money and use it to do good. That same strategy can apply to social media, because we can take their revenue stream, which isn't about revenue. It's about capturing people's attention. It's about addicting people to a service. It's about stimulating dopamine and giving people a feeling of excitement and purpose. That what we need to do is not worry about necessarily building a better mousetrap, but we need to learn how to siphon the milk off this tank. So what I am going to try to do, what I've been trying to do for about the last 2 years, is to build relationships with people through social media and offer them a bigger dopamine kick than they can get from the social media themselves, so that gradually they'll come to social media, but they'll be looking for me.
I think that's amazing. Can I poke some holes?
Please. It's like I said, this is a 2-week-old theory, so I'm sure they're there.
So actually, I think it's actually involved in a project similar to that. And I definitely want to share it with you guys. But there's something that actually I don't have any holes to poke. That it's an amazing idea. I think the only kind of like things you have to be super conscious of is, one is that you're still feeding the beast, right? At the end of the day, you're feeding the beast. But that's where people are. And
exactly.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe, who is the Chabad Rebbe, he's the one that sent my father out, and he sent 5,000 all over the world to make sure that there was no Jew left behind. And he wanted his talks broadcasted on TV and over like phone lines and then TV, and then Chabad was the first one to put Judaism on the web, and the rest of the Jewish world, at least the Orthodox world, wasn't so keen on all this, right? Like you're feeding the beast, you're bringing that schmutz, that dirt into our homes, but the Rebbe's approach was kind of like what you're saying. Our job is to reach one more soul. If I could reach one more soul, if not millions of souls, because his talk was broadcasted, his Yiddish talk, spoke Yiddish and was broadcasted on TV, and there was like I think subtitles and translations live. There are literally like hundreds of stories of people like heard this crazy story. Somebody was in a cult and he saw the Rebbe on TV, and it like totally empowered him. And so like you don't know where you're going to be able to touch somebody, but that's where people are now, and we have to use these vehicles that God put in the world.
Right.
So, absolutely.
We struggle, and I'll one second. evangelical church struggled with the same stuff when it came to television. Oh, we can't do that. That's the world.
Right.
And then all we have is bad Christian TV now. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I agree 100%.
Right.
The Gentlementor.